All right, welcome back, everyone, to another deep dive. And today we are lacing up our shoes, so to speak, and looking at the training secrets of marathon runners.
Sounds good to me.
Yeah, should be interesting. So to kick things off, our source is, well, it's a really fascinating article that caught my eye from the Strength by Fitness blog.
Yeah.
And it's written by a team of experienced coaches, which is always cool to see. What's so cool about this, though, is the fact that they analyzed data from a massive study, like truly massive.
Yeah, I mean, 150,000 marathons, nearly 120,000 people.
That's wild, right?
I mean, yeah, it's incredible. I mean, it's a total treasure trove of information.
Yeah.
What I thought was really interesting was that they didn't just stop at, okay, here's the finishing times of these people. They really dug into their training habits
Right.
to see what sets, the fastest runners apart.
Okay, so we've got mountains of data about these marathon runners.
Yeah.
But you mentioned this deep dive has implications for all of us, even if we're not aiming for, the 26.2-mile race.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, think of these marathoners as a high-performance case study.
Okay, yeah.
What they're doing to maximize their fitness and endurance, believe it or not, reveals principles we can all apply to our workouts.
Ooh, I like that. I like that a lot. All right, so I'm ready to unlock these secrets. Let's get into it. So the article really kind of zeroes in on this connection between weekly exercise volume
Right.
and the race times for these marathon runners.
Mm-hmm.
It really seems like the faster runners were consistently logging like a lot more miles each week.
Significantly more, yeah. And it wasn't just a little bit more either.
Yeah.
Like the article highlighted that the fastest group, they were the ones finishing between 120 and 150 minutes.
Okay.
Averaged 3 times the weekly volume of the slowest group, the ones who took over 240 minutes to finish.
Wow, 3 times.
3 times, yeah.
That's significant. So more miles seems to equal faster times.
You got it.
But is it really all about just grinding out mile after mile,
Well, that's where things get really interesting. The article kind of reveals this key training strategy of the top runners. Zone 1 training.
Zone 1 training. Now fill me in. What exactly does that mean?
All right, so imagine you're running with a buddy, you're out for a run, and you can just easily chat, have a conversation without gasping for air.
Okay.
You know what I mean? That's that sweet spot. That's zone 1.
So low intensity.
Low intensity.
Conversational pace.
Conversational pace, yeah.
So what a lot of people would consider an easy run, right?
Yeah, what a lot of people might, kind of think is just an easy run. But the article suggests that these fastest marathon runners dedicated a lot of their training to this.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, a big chunk of it.
So that might seem kind of counterintuitive, right?
Yeah.
Like zone 1, that's where they build this incredibly strong aerobic base.
It is, yeah. And it's all about training your body to become like a fat-burning machine and
Yeah.
optimizing recovery, which is so important when you're logging high volume.
I see. So it's about laying the groundwork for those, more intense workouts
Exactly.
that we often associate with like serious training.
Exactly. Yeah, the article really pushes back on the notion that harder is always better.
Yeah, I think a lot of us, we fall into that trap
Yeah, a lot of us do.
that we have to, push to the limit
Yeah.
in every single workout to really see the results.
I mean, yeah, high intensity is important for sure.
Yeah.
But the article makes a strong case for balance. Overdoing it can really lead to burnout
Right.
and injury,
Yeah.
which obviously stalls your progress.
Right.
So this consistent zone 1 training, it builds resilience
Okay.
and really prepares your body for those, bursts of harder effort.
So less about punishing yourself,
Yeah.
more about creating a sustainable approach to fitness, which makes a lot of sense.
It does. And this is where, I think the marathon runners offer such a fantastic illustration because they're pushing their bodies to the absolute limit, but they still prioritize this, easy running.
Right.
It's a testament to how important this zone 1 training is.
So we're talking about incorporating, a healthy dose of those boring and effortless runs, as the article puts it.
Exactly.
Okay.
It's about finding that balance between zone 1, higher intensity work, strength training, and recovery.
Right.
And that's a principle that literally anyone can apply, regardless of their goals.
This is already making me rethink my workout routine.
Mm-hmm.
But before we get too far ahead, let's break down this whole zone 1 training a little further.
Okay.
Like, how do we actually know we're in that zone?
Yeah.
And what are the specific benefits? I want to get into that.
Yeah, that's a great question because I think a lot of people wonder, like, how do I actually know I'm in zone one?
Yeah.
But you got to remember that key phrase we mentioned earlier, that conversational pace.
Okay.
You should be able to just hold a conversation without feeling winded at all.
All right. So it's not a sprint, but it's also not a leisurely stroll, right?
Right. Yeah, exactly.
What are some other clues? Like, how do we know we're hitting that zone 1 sweet spot?
Well, think about your breathing.
Okay.
It should be, you know, deeper than your resting breaths, but you shouldn't be gasping for air.
Okay.
And you should really feel like you could maintain this pace comfortably for a long time.
So it's a sustainable level of effort.
Exactly.
Okay.
And that's where the, that's where the magic of building that aerobic base comes in.
Right.
Zone 1 is really focused on improving your body's ability to use oxygen efficiently.
I like-
It's like fine-tuning your internal engine.
I like
You just, burn fuel more effectively.
And that fuel, in this case, being fat.
You got it.
Uh-huh.
Okay. So those kind of, boring and effortless runs
Yeah.
are actually key to becoming like a fat-burning machine.
I like that.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
kind of cool, huh?
Yeah. But what about all the other benefits that the article mentioned?
Right. Well, think about it. When you're working at this lower intensity, you're putting less stress on your joints and muscles.
Right.
So that means less risk of injury and faster recovery,
That's huge.
which is so important when you're aiming for that higher training volume.
Yeah, especially for those of us who maybe are prone to overdoing it and then ending up sidelined with an injury.
Exactly. And that's another place where these marathon runners, they give us valuable insight.
Yeah.
Because they're not just running huge volumes, they're doing it sustainably.
Right.
Thanks in part to, really prioritizing this zone 1 training.
So it's like they've cracked the code for building endurance without, breaking down their bodies.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And remember, the article emphasizes that these principles aren't limited to marathon training at all.
Okay.
Whether you're aiming for a 5K, you're trying to lose weight, or you just want to feel more energized, zone 1 can play a huge role.
So how do we go about incorporating this, though, into our own routines?
Right. Is it really as simple as just, heading out for a conversational pace run a few times a week?
Well, it can be that simple,
Okay.
but there are definitely a few things to keep in mind to make sure you're really getting the most out of your zone 1 training.
Okay.
So first, it's so important to listen to your body.
Right.
What feels like conversational pace for one person could be way too intense for someone else.
Right. What a seasoned marathoner considers easy might feel like a tough workout for someone just starting out.
Yeah, exactly. So don't get caught up in, comparing yourself to others.
Mm-hmm.
Start gradually.
Okay.
And then you can gradually increase, the duration of your zone 1 sessions as you get fitter.
Okay. That makes sense. Now, what about those of us who aren't runners?
Yeah.
Can we still reap the benefits of this zone 1 training?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
The beauty of this principle is that it can be applied to like so many activities.
Okay.
Think about cycling, swimming, even brisk walking, anything that allows you to maintain that steady aerobic effort. So it's about finding activities that you enjoy,
Yeah.
that you can sustain for, a while.
Exactly. And consistency is key. It's
Yeah.
way more beneficial to have several shorter zone 1 sessions throughout the week
I see.
than to just try and cram it all into one long, exhausting workout. You know what I mean?
That's encouraging
Yeah.
because it means we can weave these principles into our lives
Yeah.
without having to completely overhaul our schedules.
Exactly. Small, consistent efforts can lead to big results over time.
This is such a refreshing perspective on training. It
Right.
feels a lot more sustainable, less intimidating than the go hard or go home mentality.
Yeah. And remember, the article really highlights that balance is key.
Yeah.
Zone 1 is a great foundation, but it's not the only piece of the puzzle.
Right. We still need those higher intensity workouts, right?
Yeah.
To really challenge ourselves and push our limits.
Mhm.
But maybe we shouldn't be so afraid of those boring and effortless runs either.
Exactly. Those runs, those swims, those walks, they're like the building blocks of a strong and resilient body.
Okay.
And as the marathon runners show us, they're a vital part of achieving, peak performance.
This is all making so much sense. It feels like we've uncovered a secret weapon for unlocking our fitness potential.
Yeah.
Now, I am curious, though. These marathon runners, did they just live and breathe zone 1 training?
Right.
Or were there other insights that we can glean from their, approach?
That's a great question, and it actually leads us to another really fascinating aspect highlighted in the article. It's
Okay.
this concept of periodization.
Periodization.
Yeah, these runners, they didn't just, haphazardly log miles.
Right.
They really strategically varied their training intensities and incorporated, all kinds of different workouts throughout their training plans.
So it's not just about running endlessly at a conversational pace. There's more to it than that.
Absolutely, and that's what we'll delve into next.
Ooh. All right, love a good cliffhanger. We'll be right back with more after a quick break. All right, so we're back, and we're talking all about this Zone 1 training.
Yeah.
So it's like the foundation of a house, right?
Yeah,
It's essential
Yeah.
for building a strong aerobic base.
Yep.
But you mentioned these marathon runners didn't just stay in this low-intensity zone all the time.
Right.
They incorporated this thing called periodization.
Yeah, periodization.
What does that mean exactly?
So it's all about strategy.
Okay.
Periodization is like having a roadmap for your training.
Okay.
It involves dividing your training into distinct phases, and each of those phases has a very specific focus
Right.
and intensity level.
So instead of just, randomly mixing up your workouts, there's a deliberate plan behind it.
Exactly.
I see.
Think of it this way. Like if you were building a house,
Okay.
you wouldn't just start by putting up the walls
Right.
for laying the foundation, right?
Right.
So periodization is all about, following this logical progression in your training
Okay.
to really maximize those results.
Okay, I'm starting to see the connection here. So how does this apply to the marathon runners?
So imagine you're training for a marathon. You might start with like a base phase
Okay.
where your primary focus is on building that really solid aerobic foundation
Mm.
through, a pretty high volume of zone 1 training.
So lots of those boring and effortless runs we've been talking about.
Exactly. Yeah, you got it.
Okay.
But then as you get closer to the race, you might transition into like a build phase.
Yeah.
And this is where you start incorporating more of those higher intensity workouts,
Right.
like interval training, hill runs, things like that.
Mhm.
You're really starting to challenge your body in new ways and push your limits.
Okay, so you're gradually increasing the intensity
Mm-hmm.
to really prepare for the, for those marathon demands.
Exactly. And then finally, like in the weeks leading up to the actual race,
You might enter a taper phase.
the taper phase.
Yeah, and this involves reducing your overall training volume
Okay.
to allow your body to really fully recover
Right.
and be totally fresh for race day.
So it sounds like a strategic dance, right?
Yeah,
Between pushing yourself and then giving your body the rest it needs.
that's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
And, it highlights the importance of listening to your body
Right.
and adapting that training plan as needed.
This is so fascinating. So these runners aren't just logging miles. They're
Right.
really strategically varying their training to, achieve that peak performance.
Exactly.
So this whole periodization concept, is it something that applies beyond marathon training?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
I mean, whether you're training for a 5K, trying to build muscle,
Mm-hmm.
or just improve your overall fitness, periodization is a really great tool.
Yeah. Okay.
It's about working smarter, not
Yeah.
just harder.
I love that this whole deep dive has been so eye-opening.
I feel like I've learned so much about how to really approach like my fitness journey.
I'm glad to hear it. And it's really cool how these marathon runners, they just give us like such a clear example of these principles.
Yeah.
They're a real life example of how zone 1 training, this periodization and a
Yes.
balanced approach, can really lead to some incredible results.
And it's like they've given us this like roadmap to success,
Yeah.
even if we're not, aiming for a marathon finish line.
Exactly.
So to wrap things up, what would you say the key takeaway is here?
I'd say don't underestimate the power of zone 1 training and the
Yeah.
importance of having like a strategic approach to your workout.
It's about building that strong foundation. by
Yes.
gradually increasing the intensity
Yeah.
and giving your body, the rest it needs to recover and adapt.
Absolutely. And remember, consistency is key.
Okay. Yeah.
Small, consistent efforts over time lead to huge changes.
This has been such a great deep dive.
Yeah.
Thank you for, sharing your expertise with us
My pleasure.
and helping us really unlock these secrets of these incredible marathon runners.
Yeah, it's been fun.
And for anyone who wants to, kind of delve deeper into the research and stuff, we'll be sure to include a link in the show notes to the article.
Definitely.
Perfect. And for all our listeners out there,
Yeah.
maybe we won't all be running marathons anytime soon, but we can definitely apply these principles to our own fitness journeys.
Absolutely. There's so much to learn from